It's been a long time in the making, right? This moment, I think everybody's looking forward to it. So you finally get the big show of force, everybody out there on the stage. I guess what's your initial impressions of seeing everybody out there?
Yeah, no, it's great to be here, John. Like I said earlier, a lot of hardware out there. And these are the fights that these fighters want. You know, the opportunity to sort of really, compete and then compare and who's the best after the end of the year to start a new year. So, Champs versus Champs is on. As I mentioned earlier, this will be a tentpole annual event. Just think of it as our all-star game. And, I believe this will be one of those, must-see mega events on the annual calendar. Yeah.
I like that comparison to the all-star game. The challenge of the champions, right? Because you said then they got to go and start defending their titles or jump in seasons. I mean, have you guys talked about that operationally? Like what a challenge that might be to fight in February and then either get on one of these Bellator cards or jump in a PFL season?
Yeah, well, hey, the global season starts. That starts in April, and then the Bellator. We haven't really talked about it too much, but the Bellator Champions series that starts in the spring, March. We'll have 8 events. The fighters have plenty of time to, repair and prepare, and we've already kind of worked through all the logistics and have our entire calendar set. We haven't announced all the dates, for the 4 franchises and the respective events, but the dates are set, the cities are set, the venues are set, the teams are ready to go and support the fighters, and that's what it's all about.
You talk about this being an annual event. I know a lot of people kind of looked at this acquisition and thought, can you really run 2 simultaneous brands, long term? Are you saying that you believe this is the long-term solution and not maybe just kind of a bridge or a short-term operation?
Yeah, no, we're so excited that we have, it's a beloved brand in MMA. I mean, just think about all those great fighters that have come through, the champions, the moments, and we have this opportunity to, reimagine the Bellator brand, support, these great fighters. And the property, the brand, fits within our portfolio. I mean, you think of super fights is at the top of the pyramid, the pay-per-view events. Over here, you have the PFL and the PFL season format. And then over here, Bellator Champions Series. So both sets of fighters have an opportunity to get up to pay-per-view, but these properties are differentiated. Season format, one-off events. We have the opportunity to engage and partner and sign fighters and make matchups in weight classes we don't have in the season, but we're bringing a series to it. Less will be more, 8 global events, international, U.S. is in the mix as well, and it's on 30 events this year, 4 franchises, and we're really excited, once again about international league expansion, as I mentioned earlier.
All the great things going on. We did lose one potential champ versus champ fight overnight. The announcement today with Kayla Harrison has left the organization. I guess, can you give us your thoughts on that and kind of what transpired, I guess, that we thought this fight was going to happen and now she's in the UFC?
Yeah, listen, we wish Kayla well. She's a 2-time champion with us, women's 155, and she's moving on to UFC. She's going to be on a historic card, which I believe really illustrates, or is a testament to the level and quality of talent in the PFL. So we wish her well. It's going to be interesting to see how Kayla does with fighting the 135 division. But nothing but the best, nothing but love, and we're really excited. We'll continue to be excited about supporting women in the sport. We have some of the best women on the planet in combat sports. You saw Clarissa here making her 3rd, this is her 3rd fight, right? She's got something to prove. I mean, she's the greatest woman all-time boxer. 2 Olympic gold medals in boxing. She has 4 belts as a pro in boxing, and now humbly, she's taking on another sport. So she's a superstar. We have other superstars. I mean, Cyborg. We're disappointed that fight, between Cyborg and Kayla did not happen, and Kayla chose not to make it happen and move on to her next chapter. But when you think about Layla McCourt, you think about Larissa Pacheco. Larissa, 2-time PFL champion, women's 155 in 2022. She won 145 championship this past year. So she holds 2 belts, 2 different weight classes. She obviously defeated Kayla in 2022 in that championship. So she's ready. She wants Cyborg. I know that for a fact, and we have a great division, you know, between 145ers and 155, and we're bringing women's 125 up from PFL Europe. We haven't talked much about that. You know, Dakota Dechevich, she's an amazing athlete out of PFL Europe. So we're bringing that. Not only is Dakota coming up to the global season, but the actual weight class, women's 125, is coming up. And then when you marry the 125ers that we developed in Europe with the Bellator women, the 125ers, best 125 division in MMA, period.
That would be amazing. Is that an additional division, or will that be at the expense of another division that you pull out of the mix?
Yeah, so we decided to bring in women's 125 as the women's weight class alongside 5 men's weight classes. But outside of that, you'll see Larissa on and Cyborg on pay-per-view cards. You'll see my potential Bellator cards, global events. So we have the opportunity to sort of expand our focus with women's, and that was the goal.
Last thing for me, we've seen a lot of fighters, you know, they're like, hey, I'm a free agent now. I mean, we knew there was going to be some roster attrition. I guess kind of where do you stand, you know, with how much of the Bellator roster will be kept around and how many decisions still need to be made, or has that all been done at this point?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, we have a great team, and now combining our capabilities with Ray Sefo, Mike Hogan, and the team, most of the decisions that we made, you know, I would say internally, who's fighting in the PFL season, and half of that roster, there will be PFL fighters returning, and then the other half will be the new, you know, roster coming into the mix from Bellator. So we're in the process of working through those details, you know, with the fighters, getting ready to launch in April. Same thing on the Bellator Champions series. So, and overwhelmingly positive, you know, from all the fighters on both sides, and in particular the Bellator fighters. You know, they're ecstatic to get this level, I believe, of support, promotion, and storytelling that they candidly were not getting enough of in the past. But you know, we're going to do what we do and support their journeys, emotional journeys, physical journeys, not just the events, but kind of year-round storytelling for the fighters.
Hey, Peter, I'm just curious on the divisions that you mentioned for the PFL season format. Are there thoughts of expanding more? You mentioned about this women's division now, but are there thoughts, because there's so much talent now that you all have, of in the future having more regular season format and more men's and or women's divisions?
Yeah, I mean, hey, we have over 400 fighters now, and when you look at this roster overall, you know, across each of these franchises, pay-per-view fighters, global season fighters, and then the Bellator fighters in Champions in the Champions series, the roster is really second to none, and it's on, and we're not stopping here. So, you know, the answer to your question is we'll continue to develop, you know, great fighters and stars, and expand, and we'll expand internationally. We'll have 6 international leagues up and running in less than 2 years. We have PFL Europe, now we launched PFL MENA, both men and women throughout the Middle East have an opportunity to develop, and consistent fights or top fights on major media platforms, and earning their way to a regional championship with pathways to global season or the Bellator platform, and then for some, right up to pay-per-view. So, you know, we will continue to expand the roster as well as weight classes, but the plans are set for 2024.
Expanding the roster, you say that too and all. So is it more Ray and Mike and the team and everybody just looking, hey, even though we have this big roster, we're still going to look for new talent out there?
Sure. I mean, we're a sports organization. That's the goal. Year over year to you know, develop athletes, incentivize them, and discover new talent from around the world. When you think about what we're going to do in Africa, as an example, with Francis Ngannou. So we will launch PFL Africa in 2024. I'm sorry, 2025, along with PFL Australia. But with respect to the continent of Africa, think about Francis's journey. We're now watching what he's doing, taking on, you know, boxing. And Francis is very much committed to MMA. He'll return to the cage this year with us in our Super Fights division. But 2025, and there's been a lot of work done behind the scenes, and the foundation is already built, we will launch PFL Africa. And Francis's adversity as a professional athlete, he had to leave the continent of Africa to become a professional athlete. And with, you know, tremendous challenges, you know, the way He had to, exit, through a desert and making it over to Europe and France and then taking on the sport that way. So our vision, our goal under Francis's leadership and as an icon, will develop athletes on the continent. They will not have to leave the continent. They'll become pro athletes, getting paid, and become champions. So we're very, very excited about, all the international expansion, but in particular, you think of Francis's story and our opportunity in the sport of MMA to put resources, infrastructure around the world. We're not just staging one-off events and leaving. The PFL, we're staying, we're growing, we're committing to the markets, we're committing to the athletes at different stages of their career.
Last one for me. I'm a South Florida guy, so I'm just curious. I know you don't want to give anything away and all, but might I be happy in 2024? Might be there's something happening in South Florida?
Hey, we do have an event. We haven't announced it yet. Well, we'll be back here at the Hard Rock for an event. Details to follow. We love the market. This is a great venue, and we'll be back.
Thank you.
Mr. Murray, I have been lucky enough to been to multiple PFL events here in America. What do you say to some of the fans and to other media sites to, hey, this is the biggest probably event you have ever put on, but it's in Saudi Arabia. Are we going to see a pay-per-view in the foreseeable future in America?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're really happy to be launching in Riyadh, our Super Fights division, our pay-per-view platform. KSA has become the fight capital of the world, candidly, and we're in the mix. This is not just going to be a one-off event. There'll be long-term events from the Professional Fighters League, both PFL Super Fights, Bellator, the regional league. But for sure, we'll be bringing big events here to the U.S. Our global season, the Bellator property, in terms of the Champions Series, we'll be on the West Coast and East Coast this year with those events. And then, big events on the pay-per-view side in the U.S. for sure.
Awesome. My last one, to be brutally honest, I think one of the most successful things that PF done over multiple years has been the Challenger Series. We've seen the Challengers rise up into future champions. I didn't hear that at all going this year was the Challenger Series. Is that still going or is that gone?
Well, after 2 seasons, we created another new format. American Idol meets MMA. Those early stage fighters on the come up. 4 fights, right? 4 winners,
Yep.
each event, Friday nights. One performance gets the contract, and right on stage you saw Impa. Now Impa, he got his shot right here in Florida, in Orlando, in the Challenger Series. He made his way through the gauntlet of the PFL season, became champion, and now he's on the stage fighting one of the best welterweights in the world. And so it's on. So Impa is a great example of our system works, the platforms to develop and showcase fighters and see them graduate, the ones that earn it. So it's on. With respect to this year, we put it on pause. We're taking on Bellator. We're focused, bringing that into the system. The Challenger Series will be back next year for sure.
Thank you for your time.
I'm going to do a Zoom question real quick. Damian Martin.
Hey Pete, just following up on John's question earlier, could you clarify the contract situation that happened with Kayla? Because I think Don Davison said he thought she had 1 fight left, and then was it a situation where you guys basically decided to let her go? Can you just kind of clarify how that all played out?
Yeah, Damian, I mean, we're not going to get into contract details, but like I said, we're supportive of Kayla's next chapter. Listen, six and a half years, we ushered Kayla into the sport. She's a champion, and we'll definitely continue to root for her. And representing the PFL and mixing it up with the UFC and their fighters. And as I said, disappointed. We had the fight that matters, the fight that matters most. Candidly, the biggest fight in women's sport in MMA, and ultimately, Kayla made a decision to move on. We wanted to make that fight, but once again, we're going to continue to build what we're building. We have a great DFLW roster, and with respect to contract details, it's all good. We're supportive of Kayla.
And of course, the situation now becomes Chris Cyborg against Larissa Pacheco. I know there were talks about maybe putting that one together even for this February card. And I think Chris, maybe she said on Twitter she only has 1 MMA fight left. Have you talked to her, and is that kind of the plan now to book that fight sometime this year?
Yeah, those details are in a planning stage. we're excited about Cyborg. You know, the best woman fighter in the sport. You know, we really tried in the past to bring her into the PFL system, and now with the acquisition, we have that opportunity. Nothing but respect for Cyborg, and in this chapter of her career, she wants big fights, and she's up for it. So, you know, we have it with Layla McCourt, you know, we have it with Larissa, so we'll be announcing those details soon.
And then just to clarify, you said, so this season there will be no women's featherweight tournament, it will just be the flyweights, is that correct? Did I hear that correct?
That's correct, in the league season.
Right. And obviously this champ versus champ card played out really well with a lot of the matchups, especially getting Johnny Eblen to fight Impa Kasanganay when you guys don't have a middleweight division. Can I ask about a couple, like, obviously I think Patchy Mix is probably, you could argue, maybe the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in Bellator. Have there been talks about how soon you want to get him a fight and kind of getting that division ramped up a little bit, because I think he has wins over, I want to say, like #2 through 5 in Bellator already. So like, where's Patchy Mix in this conversation?
Well, hey, we have the Bellator Champions series coming, so stay tuned on you know, those matchups, those title fights, 8 events coming. We start in March. We will kick off the Bellator Champions series in Belfast in March.
All right, real quick, we're gonna do a last question. Harry.